Good evening, everyone. We could almost virtually say Good Yom Tov already, in the sense that it's already Erev Yom Kippur, and Erev Yom Kippur is festive. We do not say Tachanun, or Avinu Malkeinu, um, and we're commanded to eat, and it goes above and beyond the fact that we're preparing for Yom Kippur. That's why we have to eat, and we're confident Hashem will forgive us, which we will explain that in the next video a little bit about that. What we mean by that. The confidence that we have. How confident are we, and how do we tap in? But that's you know, a sneak preview. For the next video. But I want to discuss Erev Yom Kippur per se. Let's say a person says, I'm a good faster. I don't need to eat. I really do not need to eat Erev Yom Kippur. I'm a really good faster. So I want to fast 2 days. We know that that's against the halacha. Right? Chazal tell us it's a mitzvah to eat. And if you eat on Erev Yom Kippur, it says if you fasted 2 days, not if you fast on Erev Yom Kippur. It says if you eat on Erev Yom Kippur, it's as if you fasted 2 days. You're supposed there's festivity, there's eating, right? And there's something about Erev Yom Kippur in its own right that I want to discuss. What we should have in mind as we do all that eating. That's not just to make the fast easier. That's part of it, but it's deeper than that. Not to just make the fast easier. Like I said, if you're a good faster, are you, are you allowed to skip eating on Erev Yom Kippur? You're not allowed to. It's a mitzvah to eat, and to eat as much as you can. It's a mitzvah to eat constantly. The Brisker Rav supposedly, to have a constant mitzvah, had kept sucking candies under his tongue, be constantly eating on Erev Yom Kippur. Okay? There's something big in it, and it should be, expressed in something interesting. Erev Yom Kippur leads into Yom Kippur. Now we know, we eat a lot on Erev Yom Kippur, and we had our big Suda Mafsekes, right before candle lighting, right? So we have to try to, not just brush, get close to Shkia, but it's a mitzvah to do Tosefes Yom Kippur, right? So we stop eating, even before candle lighting, but still, there's this meal that we eat very, very proximate to the fast. And for this meal, we have to daven mincha ahead of time, lest, God forbid, we choke in the meal. We're not going to talk about that right now. But we go into Yom Kippur when we're saying Baruch Hu, right? We start Mariv after Kol Nidre. We could still feel the food in the belly, right? Right? We are not hungry yet, all right? The belly is still full, right? And then when we say Shema, we say Baruch Shem Kvod Malchuso L'Olam Va'ed out loud. And the explanation given is because we're like angels who are allowed to say that praise out loud because they are truly like God's glorious majesty. They are, they're very good servants of God, but we're not. So, we're not. Our world is tainted and we're tainted. So during year round, we say it quietly because we don't really, live up to it. Right? But on Yom Kippur, yes, right? So that's the explanation given. So here's my question, right? It's a question a lot of people ask. Right? When we just finished eating really good, right? And so now we go into Yom Kippur full, still feeling, the heaviness of the meal. And we say Baruch Shem Kvod Malchus out loud as if we're angels. Then Motzai Yom Kippur, after a whole day of fasting and prayer, and really, and everyone, any person with a little feeling in his heart feels the tremendous spiritual elation after Ne'ilah, right? When you say Hashem Elokim 7 times, you accept His glorious majesty, and you hear that shofar, and we say Baruch Shem Kvod Malchus so quietly again, as if it's a weekday. So after a day full of eating, right, and of course trepidation, but feeling a certain joy, a certain feeling of like Yom Tif and Simcha, but primarily eating. So we go so fresh with a full belly. We say Baruch Shem Kvod Malchuso out loud, and then Motzei Yom Kippur, when we mamish purified ourselves, cried our eyes out, and re-accept our Kosh as our King, the grand reset at Ne'ilah that we write about in our book. We say Baruch Shem Kvod quietly. Does that make sense? So there's something about Erev Yom Kippur that you don't have, Motzei Yom Kippur, it's after a whole day of fasting and prayer. Something very special about Erev Yom Kippur, right? Which we have to, understand, to understand the avoda of the day. And there's a lot to say, but I want to give over a simple message. I say simplified from things that I learned from the Sod Yesharim of the Radziner Rebbe, about the special role of Erev Yom Kippur. What Erev Yom Kippur is like half of Yom Kippur. We are, we're in great trepidation, because let's face it, we're sorry that we sinned, but we're really in trepidation of, the consequences and the punishment we may have to bear. All right, we want to have, health, wealth, nachas from the children, and just an all over easy life, right? And it looks like our physical existence is like a carrot and a stick, that we want to be good, so God shouldn't deny us a good life, and we don't want to be bad, so we shouldn't be dealt a hard life, right? So now, let's talk about that for a second. The Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva, interestingly enough, drills into our heads. We didn't, our reward for mitzvahs is not, this world. Bounty in this world is nothing more than to help you do your mitzvahs, right? That if you're not frazzled and if you're not scatterbrained and not, harassed and sickly, or you could have peace of mind to do a lot of mitzvahs, right? Right. Now it's true, not having the bounty, right, as well, it could serve as a punishment, which could be an atonement, yes, but but on the simplest level, says the Rambam, you just don't merit to have it easy to do mitzvahs. If you're interested in mitzvahs, I will make it easy for you to do mitzvahs. If you're not interested in mitzvahs, I'm going to make it hard for you to do mitzvahs. You don't deserve to have it easy to do mitzvahs if you're not really interested in mitzvahs. The more you are mitzvah-oriented and genuinely interested, the easier I'll make it for you. Right? But the real reward is Olam Haba. We're here to earn the eternal world, not the passing pleasures of this world. But the Torah promises us the material blessings, because, you want to do mitzvahs, I'll give you a lot of opportunity and make it really easy for you. Right, but let's think about this for a second, right? So first of all, sometimes we lose that focus and we view like the goal to merit great, a great situation in this world, or God forbid, avoid having a miserable life in this world. And it's very important to get that back into focus, that our situation in this world is not the ultimate, reward of our mitzvahs. And when you realize that also, you have much less bitterness of how it's not fair. I'm such a great guy and I don't have what this guy has or what that guy has. The reward for mitzvahs is not in this world. The reward for mitzvahs is in Olam Haba, right? And that's where you get what you truly deserve. Here, it's your obstacle course. But one of the fringe benefits of being mitzvah-oriented is that you deserve to have it a little bit easier, right? As the Ram explains. But let's think about what mitzvahs are. In the first place, mitzvahs are all physical actions. The neshama had to come down here to do mitzvahs. You can't do mitzvahs in heaven, right? And as the Magid Meisharim says, the Magid told Beis Yosef, right? When the neshamas before they're born, they can't look the Shekhinah in the face. They're embarrassed. They didn't do anything to earn their existence. We're sent down here to have the honor of earning our existence. Right, and then we can face the Shekhinah face to face when we go back up to heaven. Right, aside from getting rewarded, not just having the pride of a job well done and an existence well earned, but You've made accomplishments that deserve schar. Okay, great. So this is what our place in this world. But still, all these things that we do, they're all physical actions. Think about the mitzvahs. So the physical bounty makes it easier to do mitzvahs because mitzvahs cost money. Sukkot is coming, the Arba Minim. Interestingly enough, the Gemara says the sukkah doesn't have to cost anything. Man, times have changed. It's called mitzvah kala because anybody saw on kiss. Well, that changed. Sukkah costs even more than the dollar minimum, it seems to me. But and Simchas Yom Tov costs money, right? Costs money. But if you have the money, if you have the health, so you could build the sukkah yourself, and you don't have problems, performing the mitzvah, you don't have problems affording the mitzvahs, and of course, sharing the wealth with others, the mitzvah of tzedakah. And the more you have and the healthier you are, the more you can do. And that is what it's all about. But think about this. We were sent to the physical realm to do physical acts and to conquer it for the kingdom of heaven. In essence, we say, well, mitzvahs are not easy, not because of just the physical arches, because we struggle against Yetzer Hara. Okay, it's a struggle, and it's called that we're conquering the physical realm for the kingdom of heaven. And the truth is, Olam Haba is when this world, because we fixed it, gets elevated, and it becomes the world to come. Right? And many of that happens on Yom Kippur. The Kavanas, the Malchus, which is, and it's interesting that the world is contained in the place. The place world is called Malchus Kingdom, because actually our being here in Olam Hazeh is to conquer it for the kingdom of heaven, for Malchus. So the Malchus, which is the place of the world, gets raised and raised until Ne'ilah, it's on top of the tree, so the tree represents, the sun is on top of the tree represents the span of reality, and Malchus is in Bina. The daughter has been reunited, so to speak, with her mother, and that's the big purifying experience, the big, Shema Yisrael, Baruch Shem Kvod Hashem Elokim. And, now is not the time to talk about all the details right now. We'll discuss in the next video. But what I want to share with you is that, the story of our sojourn and, our stay in this world is all about, working within the physical realm to conquer the physical realm for God, right? We were here to engage in the physical. We just can't lose perspective. We have to keep perspective that the physical is not the goal in its own right. The physical is the job, and it's the conquest. The goal is Olam Haba. But, the only way to get to Olam Haba is you got to come down here, interact with the physical world, conquer it for the kingdom of heaven, and that's your ticket to Olam Haba. And it's even not just the ticket, but this very world in the 7th millennium will be closed for renovations, reopened in the 8th millennium to become Olam Haba. This world will be higher than the world of the angels, right? We will have converted it, annexed it to be the kingdom of heaven. This world will become the Olam Haba, will be refashioned because of our mitzvahs, because of what we do, right? So the physical is part of who we are. It's our whole mission, right? God didn't create us to be angels. Angels stay in heaven, and angels do not earn Olam Haba. They don't have mitzvahs. They don't have the challenges that we have of conquering the Yetzer Hara, right? Conquering the world. And we, in our last video, we alluded to that. Give a angel a Yetzer Hara, he'll just fail and fail and fail. We have the power of free will. We were given the Yetzer Hara to conquer it, knock it out with the power of our divine free will, like we spoke about in the last video. Right? So this world, obviously we sin because we get distracted by the physicality. The physicality is our job. It's our mission. We have to work with it to conquer it. Not that it should conquer us. We should conquer it, not it conquer us. Right? So we got to do. Right? And to conquer it and to elevate it, angels, Hashem has plenty. He needs, people on earth to do the work of conversion, of conquering the physical realm, interacting with it, conquering it, and converting it into the spiritual. And there's like a whole mini destiny happening on Erev Yom Kippur and Yom Kippur. It's like Yom Kippur is reminiscent of the world to come. That's what the Ram alludes to. It is the edge of forgiveness, edge, like edge of time, because Yom Kippur is reminiscent of the world to come where everything's good. All sins are forgiven. Everything is converted to good, right? But what gets converted to good? The physical, right? And that's the avodah of Erev Yom Kippur. Erev Yom Kippur is we load up with the physical. After all, it's a physical Kohen Gadol that has to go into the holiest of holies, right? And of course, in that experience, he gets transformed. And we have this transformative experience on Yom Kippur, that our physicality turns to spirituality. It's like a super condensed course of destiny, right? So we get it once a year to like juice us up, but it's deeper than juicing us up, because as a word, this year needs to be fixed and elevated before it's stored away in the past, right? Then we're going to conquer next year. This year, we're doing tshuva for anything we fell short of for this past year, right? So this past year, before it gets stored into where God stores all time, and Olam Haba, you should know, is built out of all time together. The Ramchal writes in the Adir B'Moro, right? So before this year gets stored away, we fix it, and it's like the world, like a quick, mini completion of destiny for this year, before this year gets stored away to become the time of Olam Haba. Think about that. So it's all about taking the physical and elevating it. Rav Simcha Bun of Pershiska said once that if he wanted to, if he could, I meant to say, he wants to, but he can't. But if he could only, annul all the fasts, he would do it. And he's got my vote. I'm with him. Yeah, but he can't, right? So if he can't, so certainly I can't. Right? No one can, right? But if he would have known all the fasts except for two, Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur. Right, Tisha B'Av, because this is the base ritual story. How can you eat? How can you? And Yom Kippur, you don't need to eat, right? Because on this day, the physical is converted into the spiritual. That is the special energy of the day, right? So now think about this. All sin is because there's a schism between the physical and the spiritual, a fake war, but it seems that way because the Yetzer Hara wants to play it that way. That you can't, if you want the physical, you have to forget about the spiritual. That's the big lie of the Yetzer Hara, and we buy it, and we let him, that because we want the physical, we let him con us into that. If you really want to enjoy the physical, you got to forget about the spiritual. But it's the big lie. It's the big lie of the Yetzer Hara, and because we live with that big lie year round, right? So we say Baruch Shem Kavod quietly, we're tainted with the Yetzer Hara, and the Yetzer Hara taints our world because, seemingly to the shallow mind, the physical and the spiritual are at loggerheads with each other, just like body and soul, which is the biggest lie also. How is the body alive? From the soul. So how can you say that they're at loggerheads with each other? The soul sustains the body, right? But that's just, that's the big lie. The big lie of the Yetzer Hara that really, really deflects us, distracts us, tempts us, and gets us to fail. On this day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu cleans up. But the way to clean up the world is not to negate the physical, because that's the whole point. Fixing the physical, fixing and elevating physical is the whole point of our existence on earth, right? So what happens on this day is that the physical is elevated. So, and there's a convergence of the spiritual and the physical on this day. And that's why we could say Baruch Shem Kvod Malchuso out loud, even though we just filled the belly, because that's the special energy of the day. As we know, Has Satan is Gematria 364. There's 365 days in the solar year, right? Well, there's one day Has Satan doesn't work, on Yom Kippur. On this day, Hashem removes the Yetzer Hara and allows for the convergence of the physical and the spiritual. It's the special energy of the day. Right, and with the special energy of the day, everything, all the physicality of this past year is elevated before it's stored away where God stores all time to build up the time of Olam Haba. Deep stuff, I know. You could always private message me, and I'll explain it more if necessary. It's a Ramchal and the Adir B'Moro. Right, so on this great day, the physical is elevated. So of course, we're supposed to tank up on the physical on Erev Erev Yom Kippur, to walk with that physicality into Yom Kippur, kind of parallel, to how the Kohen Gadol with his physical body goes into the holiest of holies, right, which is God's domain. There's a convergence between the spiritual and the physical, and that's what makes tshuva, that's what makes tikkun, because tikkun is with the fake schism between the physical and the spiritual, right? Chet means to miss, like lahti, that the spiritual and the physical are not properly aligned; they're missing each other. On this day is the great alignment, right? And the body is elevated, and it closes the gap with the soul. And this physical realm, in a way that the eyes can't see, but we're torn to cover us, the physical realm is elevated all the way up to Bina. Right? It's amazing stuff what goes on. The energies of this day are reminiscent of the end of time, because it is the end of time for this year. To elevate this year and to fix this year before it gets stored away to be the time of Olam Haba. So that's why we have to walk into this Chag, with tanked up with the physical, for it to be elevated. And there's a special the convergence that happens between the world of Erev Yom Kippur and Yom Kippur. But that special energy allowing for the convergence is over as soon as Yom Kippur goes out. So as soon as Yom Kippur goes out, we can't say Baruch Shem Kvod Malchus out loud anymore. We're back into the world where the Yetzer Hara has its footing, and there's the illusion of the misalignment between body and soul, between our good intentions and what we actually do. Good intentions being from the soul, but the flesh is weak, right? And the illusion that the physical and the spiritual are incompatible. We're back in that world, which we have to resume the fight, right? But on Erev Yom Kippur, we're preparing for the grand convergence. But with that in mind, also it should get our thinking straight. Eating could be that I conquer the food, and that's seemingly what it looks like. But are you conquering the food, or is the food conquering you? Right? That's dragging you down, and by you eating it, you are what you eat. You're going down to the level of what you ate. And that's what the Zohar says in Parshas Ekev. The time of the Suda is a milchama. And that's why lechem, lashon milchama, right? Bread is also the same root as to battle. It's an idon krava, says the Zohar in Parshas Ekev, right? And that's why it's important to say Birkas Hamazon with kavana, that it should be that I'm conquering the food and elevating, as opposed to the food conquering me and bringing it down to its level. So we should get our bearing straight. On Erev Yom Kippur, we're promised that God will help us, that this food is not going to drag us down. We're going to drag it up. And it's going to be part of the great convergence of the physical and spiritual realm that happens on Yom Kippur. But it'll obviously, God does this. He gives special cosmic energies on Erev Yom Kippur going into Yom Kippur. And that wonderful, wonderful convergence of the physical and spiritual is over as soon as Yom Kippur goes out, no matter how juiced up we are by that point, spiritually juiced up. I mean, and we're going to discuss that next video. But it is the avot of Erev Yom Kippur, which also set a tone for the rest of the year. We should be eating l'shem shamayim. We should do all our physical deeds l'shem shamayim. That's why we're here. We're here to conquer the world. So it's not just do your physical stuff in a way that it's not in Avera, because then, God will take it away from you. We have to realign of the way we think, that the Erev Yom Kippur, the way we eat on Erev Yom Kippur should set the tone for the way we eat year round, that it's about conquering God's world for him, going to physical realm to conquer it for the kingdom of heaven. And that's what we do. Erev Yom Kippur, the Erev Yom Kippur symbiosis is to take the physical realm into the spiritual realm, because that's the purpose of destiny. That's the purpose of our lives on earth, and that's the end of the tikkun of this year. As though it's like if every year is a mini destiny, the end of time for this year, which is reminiscent of the big tikkun of the end of time, when all physical becomes spiritual and converges. That's what happens for this year on Yom Kippur. Baruch Shem, we should do the avot of Erev Yom Kippur correctly, of tanking up on Gashmias for the sake of, preparing for the convergence, of that the Gashmias and Ruchnias become one on this great day. All right, Gemar Chasim B'Teiva.